Project charter. This is part of your project report. This is actually the main executive part of the main executive report that you are going to put together in order to be able to not only attract money, but also if you want to have a JV agreement with the landowner where you get the development rights, you will have to put something like that together. So this is a real report that I put together. When I put together, this was under my other company called Positive Property Pro. So that's why it's got my logo, my old logo on it. And all I have done in this is actually taken away the details for the client and any numbers that reveal the details of the project. So I have taken out details that I can identify the project, but I've left some details in which I could. This website, by the way, doesn't work because I've got a new website now, which is propertydevelopmentsystem.com.au. So that website doesn't work anymore. So, but it was an actual report, 100%. I used that report, which got, if you have a look at one of my testimonies, I think one of the clients actually mentions about the report, and this was that report. So what actually goes in the report? Let's look at the table of contents. You can change the logos in here in this template. It's a Word template, and you can change to suit to your logo, your website, your details, whichever way you want. So table of contents, project stakeholders. Your project report should identify who are the stakeholders in the project, executive summary, project description, project objectives and success criteria, constraints, assumptions, all the constraints that you think that could delay the project or work as constraints in the project. So you got to identify them and you got to put them in the report. Assumptions, preliminary scope statement, things that are not in the scope. I put that there because when I had this agreement with the landowner, I had to identify that these are the things that I'm not responsible for. So those are the things that they've got to manage on their own. So risk and risk management, project deliverables, summary milestone schedule. You should have some sort of a milestone or some sort of a date by which you can achieve the permit, by which you can get sales, by which you can organize different milestones, basically. Project feasibility becomes part of it. So you might use 2 or 3 different templates, and you get reports from the due diligence section of this course. Everything that I've told you, you can pick up details and reports from different websites that I have already explained you in the course, and you can make those part of this report. The thicker the report, the more professional you look. Not necessarily, but if you fill it up with a lot of fluff, people will see through it. So make sure you've got the good quality content and relevant research in the project, not just anything. So project approval requirements, project manager, project fees, the payment schedule, and finally an authorization. So let's go through that. So this is your project stakeholders. Now you could have project sponsor, client, who's going to be the development manager, who's going to be the project manager. Then you have an executive summary where you summarize what the project is, who's going to do what, and what are the outcomes. What are the outcomes that you're expecting from it? You got to describe the project. What is it? 4 townhouses, 3 townhouses, apartments, all these things. Project objectives and success criteria. For example, what are you planning to achieve, and what are the things that once achieved, you can call that the project's a success. So those are the things that go in there. Constraints. The following constraints pertain to the project. The funding must be available according to budget prior to actual works delegation. Development subject to council approval, because at the time we had not gone in the council, and the development, the construction of the development is subject to raising capital prior to commencement of construction. So these were the constraints that I had identified for that project. You have this as a template. You can take out these words, leave some in there, and use the sentences that as you see fitting in your scenario. Assumptions. What are the assumptions that you've made? for the project, for the finance, for even for market research. So those things can be in there. Preliminary scope statement, you should have that. What's not in your scope, the risk and the risk management. Now you can just copy a lot of stuff and just stick it in there just because of saying that, but the risk you should be able to identify risks that are specific to your development. So what are the risks? The decline in property values, obtaining planning permit, and how they and then you've got to categorize them. Are they severe? Are they moderate? What's the probability of them of that risk actually eventuating? So delivery risk, and these are all different kinds of risks that you can read through in your own time. And in the risk management module, I have already covered all of these risks in there. You put project deliverables, what you really need to deliver. You put a summary of milestones, when you start, all the things, council approval. Then you got to raise capital plus 3 months, building permit 1 month, construction 12 months, 90 days, and all these things that you can put in your project. Project approval requirements. Project is considered closed after 2 successfully completed townhouses are sold, for example. That was my arrangement with the landowner. You've got development and project manager. Who are these people and what are they going to do in the project? Then you've got project fees. What are you going to charge? These are the actual fees that I charge for the project. So I'm not hiding anything from here, but you can have a look at it. Project fees, payment schedule, how are you going to pay, how are you going to get paid, and when are you going to get paid for all these things, and the authorization of the client and the details. So that's the main project report, but what it is that it actually starts expanding. So now this is just basically general stuff that goes in the report. Then you've got the market study. That's like an Annexure A, and everything that we have covered in how to find your deal and due diligence portion, everything related to market analysis has to go in here. The walk score, the comparable sales, see, I've taken stuff out from this report, but this report has, insert spatial analysis photo here. So you should be able to put in photos of Google Maps, showing where the site is at, how far do you have to walk to the nearest petrol station or the nearest shopping center or the train station and so on. So all these things become part of the market study and you have to add them in there. Feasibility assumptions, you've got description for townhouses, approximate size of each townhouse, what are they, how are you, what do you think the land value is, what are the legals, what are the construction costs that you have considered, why have you considered those construction costs, what kind of contingency is available in the project, and you can elaborate on this a bit more using the financial feasibility software that you've got from me, and the financial feasibility module. I'll explain all those things so you can elaborate a lot more. See, a development margin of 14% is in line with similar projects similar in size. So all these things can go in. Financial feasibility, which is this can then become part of your project because they want to see what have you allowed for. Now this is only a sample from another project, but you can look at all the numbers that go in, and then you can look at what comes out, and that's your summary sheet, and then you can make all of this part of the project. So if you've gone through the financial feasibility module, you should have no problem putting a financial feasibility report as part of the project report.